Hey, welcome back to Fed Up, the number one podcast where you can get up on all things Federal League. I am your host, Josh Stoll, and with us, as always, our executive producer, Mr. Chris Miner. Chris, one weekend in the books. Federal League playoffs are halfway done. What's your take so far?
For the league, awesome weekend. Started out hot Friday night, both AAA games that started the weekend. I went into extras, been really entertaining. And then, you get that crowd settling in for the AA games afterward. And it's just a really cool scene and a really awesome way to start the weekend. And it kind of set the tone for the rest of the next couple of days. So, yeah, as far as league tournaments go, this is probably the best first weekend I've been to since I've been in the league personally.
I gotta agree. I mean, the weather was perfect. The teams were out in full force. The parking lot scenes looked like they were on fire just from the pictures on Twitter at all sites. Just was so much fun to see teams that you don't normally get a chance to run up against during the regular season. A lot of great baseball. I had some friends come out to our games that ended up staying for games following because the baseball was that good and that entertaining, and they just couldn't believe in their first Federal League experience just the high level of execution that was being put on display by these senior men's baseball players. It was a great sight to see across all brackets.
And it was really, really awesome baseball to watch. Like, to the you might just be a normal person just stumbling upon this and just thinking, yeah, okay, this was really, really good baseball, and AAA especially.
Absolutely. Let's lay out an agenda for this week's episode. We're going to cover each of the brackets. We're going to hit as much as we can. There were 34 games played across the four brackets. It's difficult kind of putting together a scoreboard roundup, with no stats on the website. So we relied heavily on our own eyes and experiences for a lot of that. And then Twitter, of course, was very active over the weekend. So able to glean some tidbits from that as well. Want to hit on a couple of other points of note. We mentioned the weather, how beautiful it was this weekend. I think that absolutely is different, at least. It seems like we've always dealt with some sort of rain, during these weekends, but it was just absolutely gorgeous baseball weather, as the Voyagers would say, a perfect baseball sky all 3 nights. Want to talk about some of the notable injuries, maybe the town ball effect that was going on for a couple of teams. But ultimately, just want to look at where we're at with all 4 brackets, see how teams got there. We're going to have a guest on for each of the brackets. We recorded 3 of those segments, still looking for our B guest. Hopefully we can get that done and bring that to you as well. But nonetheless, we will for sure bring you tons of highlights, scores, and a look at the weekend ahead that will eventually crown 4 different champions. Well, our action kicks off in the B bracket. Just 5 games over the weekend. Because of those 2 teams that withdrew from their playoff status. Who's left in the winner's bracket? It's the St. Anthony Norsemen versus the Capital City Cannons. I think it's important to look at the journey of how they got there. St. Anthony was the benefactor of the first round bye, so they had just 1 win to get to where they are. It was over the St. Patrick's Shamrocks. They won that game 8-7. I'm told there was a mammoth shot of a home run in this game, over 400 feet to dead center. Not even sure who hit it, but really impressive to see, that level of baseball being played down in the B, just having that ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark. If you know, drop us a link in the comments. I'd love to know who hit that shot for the Norsemen.
Yeah, for sure. First thing I noticed, and granted, this isn't about the 2 teams that are in it, but St. Patrick, welcome back, getting a couple dubs in there, and
Absolutely.
then going toe to toe with the Norsemen. We've kind of touched on it. The Norsemen shouldn't be a B team, or typically aren't, and and that the Senators team has been playing well. Maybe it's just us against us, but they've been playing well lately to me. So, way to go, St. Patrick. Getting back into the mix on that and knocking out a couple dubs to start the tournament this weekend.
Yeah, they were victors in their first game, 12-2 over the Senators. The Senators actually led most of that game, I'm told, until about the 5th or the 6th inning. It was 2-1 Senators in that one. And then St. Patrick just erupted. A scary scene at that game. I believe it was the Shamrock's catcher who may have had a seizure. May not have all my facts right on that, but certainly wish that player well. Obviously, health comes first, before any of this, baseball action. But hopefully he is doing much better and hopefully able to even come back and play this next weekend, because the Shamrocks still have action in front of them. They will take on the Chaska Diamonds on Thursday night at Missile Park. The Diamonds team in their first game lost to the Capital City Cannons in a close one, 5-3. After the Cannons took care of the Diamonds, they went on to play Vesely. Vesely, of course, the other benefactor of that first round bye. Cannons were able to come out ahead in that game 11-7. Scott Angus, I know, went for the Vulcans, wasn't at his best, but the Vulcans not done in this bracket either. They will take on the winner of the Shamrocks Diamonds game. That game will be Saturday morning back at Missile Park. So the Vulcans laying in wait for the result of the game Thursday, and then the winner of that game will go on to take on, of course, the loser of the Norseman Cannons game, ultimately trying to come back and try and double dip the winner. Nostradamus's pick there in the B bracket, of course, the St. Anthony Norsemen. They look like they're off to a strong start and in the commanding position to go ahead and get that done.
Well, you're Nostradamus. You go for accuracy, right? You're a facts guy. You're a black and white guy. I'm more subjective. I don't know what the hell I want, whatever. But I am gonna go. You know how sometimes you just kind of make bold predictions. If I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Scott Angus is gonna throw 2 complete games this weekend. No
That's pretty
pressure.
bold. That's pretty bold.
I'm not, you don't have to live up to it, but I just feel like if Vesley's going to go on a run, it's going to take some Fernando Mania type of run from Scott Angus to go, and I would love to see it because I think it would make it interesting. So, because St. Anthony is looking hard to beat there, so anything to mix it up a little bit, I'll take Angus and Vesley.
All right, I love it. The eventual championship of that bracket will be played on Sunday, August 10th. It'll be an all-day championship day out at Alley Magnet, starting with the B. If the loser bracket were to win that game and force a second game, all the action shifts over to Bob Bunnell Field. So hopefully we'll have championship after championship going on back and forth. It could be a really fun, exciting day of baseball all day long.
For free, too, right? I was just thinking that because I was watching the town ball thing last night. I watch it like every night when I go to bed. And Jenna said it all every now and then during our interview, like they charge at the gate, to fund this and that. I'm like, what's that like? Oh, you guys have a gate? We don't even have the key. God.
Racing on to the A bracket action. I got a lot wrong when it comes to the first round matchups in this one, and maybe now is a good time to recap my entire performance. Nostradamus was 0 for 5 on Friday. It was a straight donation direct to Cambodia Friday night, but I rebounded nicely over the weekend, finished 8-10. So $10 per game, that's $100. I said if I had a losing record, I would double it to $20 a game, $200 a donation to the First Inning Baseball Alliance. Was in touch with Rhino. He's just getting his website set up so they're able to take tax deductible donations. They should have that ready soon. I plan to make my donation at that time when he's ready for it. I challenge anybody else to go ahead and support that cause. They are, of course, supporting the growth of the game of baseball in Cambodia. Certainly a worthy cause and one that we love to highlight here. Look forward to having Rhino as a guest on next season's episodes of Fed Up. Back to the action in the A. The Metro Loons, the 1 seed, took on the RC Rockets. They were able to win that game 4-0. The story of the game was defense. Ironically for the Loons, 0 errors in that game. They like to poke fun at themselves all the time about how they like to kick the ball around. It was solid defense that propelled them to a shutout win. On the other hand, it was the costly errors for the Rockets that were kind of the difference there. So Metro able to win that game 4-0. They went on to then play the St. Croix Valley Silverbacks. They won that game. I got to apologize to both of these teams. I also scheduled the umpires for the Federal League. I had a miss on the umpire situation in this one. So they sat around, they waited for probably almost an hour for that game to start. So my deepest apologies to both the Loons and St. Croix Valley for starting that game late. I'm glad that the Loons post game brisket was not spoiled. They were able to get to that. It rested a little bit longer. It was probably be even more juicy and succulent, but they were able to enjoy that after a couple of wins, and they find themselves sitting in a very favorable position in that A bracket, still in the winner's bracket, taking on the St. Michael Angels.
Okay, I have a few things on the loons. You can't overrest a brisket, Josh. So you're lucky that Blue showed up when he did, because if you overrest the brisket, you might as well just throw it in the trash. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, second thing. Remember when we made a big deal out of Metro just slip into A, and we are like, you think that would be okay?
They're fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're fine.
Yeah. I think this is awesome. I mean, you're going to get into the rest of the story here, but the Loons taking care of the Rockets early on. The Rockets had a nice little juge going into the postseason, I feel like, with their young arms and their kind of evolving squad. So to kind of put that piss on that fire before it even kind of got going is pretty nasty work, especially on a Friday night, on a work night, whatever. So yeah, Metro looking good. They're gonna be tough to knock off twice over the weekend.
How did the Angels get there? They, despite a poor pick from me, were able to be victorious in their opening game against the Eden Prairie Flyers, but they had to come back from behind to do it. They win that game 3-2. A couple of late runs allowed them to propel themselves past the Flyers. Sean Model was great in that one, I'm told. St. Michael's second game, they played the Minnetonka Mustangs, a team that we have given a lot of highlight to here on the podcast. They beat the Mustangs 6-1 in that game. Anderson, a huge 2 RBI double in that one. Dan Pluff goes for the Angels, threw brilliantly as he always does. So that is how the teams got there in the winner's bracket. Still a handful of teams left in the loser bracket side. St. Paul JTs being one of them. They dropped their opening game to the St. Croix Valley Silverbacks. Final, that one was 7-1. That was a surprise to me. Not that St. Croix Valley couldn't get to 7, but the JTs only getting 1 in that against a team not overly known for their strong pitching. But that game definitely was a surprise to me.
The Silverbacks have a couple guys that can throw, but if you're like us, we usually see the older guys as well. One thing they are is experienced, and they know how to pitch, and pitching in the postseason, things get ramped up. These guys have slept through stuff like this. So, for some, JT's guys are younger. I'm not saying that they're like shaking in the batter's box in Federal League playoffs, but it's just different. It isn't ramped up a little bit. It's not Thursday night with your B squad just trying to get through 7. This is like we're trying to get something done here. So there's something to be said about squeezing the bat a little bit. And perhaps that's what happened. Who knows? But good for St. Croix Valley, especially coming over the border, because they're not known for doing so. To come over and put one on is pretty awesome.
The JTs looked like they might be squeezing that bat in the second game as well, as they dropped to the losers bracket. They took on the Minnetonka Mustangs. They spotted the Mustangs in 8th spot early in this one, trailed big time, but they were able to slug their way back into the game. They end up winning that game 14-10. Which sets them up for a matchup that will pit them against the winner of the Silverbacks and the Eden Prairie Flyers. That game going on Thursday night at 7:15 at Big Willow. The action from that point will continue at a beautiful ballpark, one that you're familiar with, out at Hawks Baseball Field in Hastings. 3 games in this bracket out at Hastings, all taking place on Saturday the 9th before it flips back to Alley Magnet for that championship Sunday.
Pretty awesome that they're dipping down to Hastings to get a day in there. It's a pretty awesome experience or atmosphere that they have down there. Just looking at this bracket, really cool matchup, presuming that, Pluff goes, or even Model. But, if Pluff is the guy for St. Michael against the Loon, I think if we're talking A bracket matchups, that's pretty ridiculous, considering all things. So that's one to watch, and I think it's going to be cool to see how the Silverbacks do on a Thursday night to try to get through Eden Prairie at Big Willow. If they do that, that JT Silverbacks game is going to be kind of interesting to me because that's in Hastings, closer drive for the guys over there. So could affect what happens further on down the weekend. So just a couple of things to keep an eye on, but that Metro Angels matchup's going to be pretty sweet if we get the matchup we think we hope to get, right?
Excellent points, excellent insights, featuring a mid-game week. Yes, it's the playoffs. You hope that these teams are going to be able to grab, their best lineups, their best roster players. But yes, it's still a midweek matchup, and that drive from St. Croix Valley to Big Willow is not a short one.
Right.
One of the longer ones the league can even feature. Definitely some valid points. We'll have to see how that plays out. Well, it is time now to bring on our A bracket guest. He's been a contributor to the podcast before, so super excited to bring him back on. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, it's time now to welcome our representative for the A bracket. It must be playoff time because it's time to welcome back Dan Pluff of the St. Michael Angels. Dan, welcome back to Fed Up.
Well, thanks for having me, Josh. I was just saying, I can't believe it's been a year. It's been a long year to get here. The season's gone up and down for the team, but excited we're still alive, man.
Yeah, is the shoulder feeling a year younger or a year older than the last time we chatted?
Neither. It feels about 130 years older than last year. So, yeah, no, it's going downhill fast. I'm running out of gas in the tank, man.
Well, you and Model must have had a pretty special weekend. You guys are sitting in the winner bracket in the semifinal of the A bracket. By path of a couple of close, low-scoring games, you're able to edge out Eden Prairie 3-2 in the opener, and the Mustangs 6-1. Talk a little bit about the pitching and the defense that was able to help you guys sustain a couple of wins over the weekend.
Sure, yeah. So, Sean's been our workhorse all year long. I don't even know how many innings he's thrown. It's got to be at least, quadruple what I've thrown. So, hats off to him. He's out there seemingly every game throwing, and I wasn't there on Saturday, but what I heard was Eden Prairie came out swinging it well between, Sean and our catcher, made some good adjustments and kind of changed the plan of attack and really kind of held him at bay until the offense got going and walked him off late. I heard Craig got a real bomb infield single to walk it off, but hey, as long as it scores a run, we're happy. But defense played well, and then on Sunday we got a Mustangs team that I know you talked about them in the preview episode. What a resurgence from that team. And boy, they swung it well. I threw some good pitches that they got some barrels on, got in the outfield. Luckily, Moto made a nice play in left in the first to keep him from getting much going. Center fielder Hack had a wonderful catch on a ball that should have been at least a double. I think that was the 5th or the 6th inning when they were looking to make a bit of a comeback. So, yeah, defense played great behind me and, luckily was able to pound the zone and defense did their thing behind me. And I asked for the team on Sunday morning if they could score me a touchdown, and they did so. They got me 6. Now we're terrible at kicking the extra point, but hey, man, I'll take 6, and it worked out for us in the long run.
A 6 was definitely good enough, and I tell my guys all the time there, too, in those pressure situations, of course we all want that pretty walk-off, but so many times it's just weak contact, it's a flare, it's a broken bat, that ends up being the difference maker in a tight game, and that certainly seemed to be the case in the Flyers matchup. So let's talk about the weekend ahead. You guys are matched up, at least in the winner's bracket, with a pretty difficult task. You've got the 1 seed, the Metro Loons. What do you know about them? What do you expect?
All right, so before we get there, I'm gonna take you off script. I'm gonna call you out, Nostradamus, for counting us out against the Flyers last week. Don't think you're getting away from that, man. So I gave you some intel. You used it against us, and luckily we proved you wrong. So just want to make sure that makes the final cut. If it doesn't, man, we got a bone to pick. But yeah, no, onto the Loons. So they're a good team. I've only faced them once personally. We played them in the first round of the Double-A 2 years ago. It's going to sound weird for a guy to say this. We won that game 1-0, but that was a good hitting team, and I think that's not a secret around the league. That was a year I was really throwing well. I think going into that game, I'd given up maybe 2 hits the whole season. They had like 5. They were swinging it well. They had runners in scoring position at least 2 or 3 times, so they can swing the bat very, very well, and we've got our work cut out for us. They're a perennial Double-A team for a reason. Surprised to see them drop down. I know there was some double forfeit action going on there that kind of caused that slide, but not a team that we were hoping to see. Honestly, they're a good squad.
You can bet your bottom dollar that that will make the final cut. I'll make sure to keep that in there because, yeah, it's time for Nostradamus to eat a little crow, especially with both the Loons and the Angels making the top half of that bracket, picked against both of you in the opener there. Happy to be wrong and happy to make a donation to the First Inning Baseball Alliance. So done and done on that. And don't forget, though, you guys are still my pick here to be the champions of this class. So might be able to save some face when it comes to that.
Okay. All right. I missed that part of it. So maybe I missed that. So if that's the case, then you're 100% right. So I like it.
Still some pretty good teams left in the loser bracket in this bracket as well. Eden Prairie Flyers, a team that you've seen already. They were able to sneak by the Voyagers. They play a St. Croix Valley Silverback team that my team knows really well from the East. And then another group from the East, the St. Paul JTs. I'm telling you right now, look out for that squad because they can hit, they can pitch, they can field, and something tells me that you might bump into them in the very, very near future.
That's definitely the case. There's really nobody left, just like you were saying, that we look at as saying, boy, we hope we get them in a potential future matchup. I think there's some teams that are definitely on the rise. Like you said, the JTs are having a wonderful year. The Flyers definitely, I know they're coming off a B bracket win last year, so they're a team on the rise. And the Silverbacks, they are a really good hitting team. I faced them in the playoffs a few years ago. I think they scored 4 off me. That was maybe the most runs I've given up in a game in the entire league in my 4 years. So not a team to take lightly. Luckily, their defense was off that day, or we might have ended up on the bad side of that one a few years ago. So yeah, no one left that's going to be a pushover. So whoever's left standing, Sunday afternoon is going to have to earn it for sure.
Pitcher, are you? I'm going to guess you're going to go one of the days this weekend. But are you a guy that likes to have a couple of days notice when you're getting the ball? Are you a guy that can kind of just show up at the ballpark and be given the pearl and take the hill?
That's a good question. I guess I never really got a choice. I was always, for the most part, for any team that I was a starter on growing up, was kind of at the top end of the rotations. Sort of knew when I was going to go, but that said, I guess I would prefer to have a day or so notice. I'm even at 41 years old. I like to kind of analyze and kind of come up with a game plan. And so if I would have shown up and Mark would have, given the ball to someone else, I'd have probably taken him in the parking lot. So no, I guess I'd prefer that day to get ready for the game.
It's just an interesting scenario that a couple of teams in your position are going to be faced with. And, there's probably some temptation to save the ace for Sunday to avoid that potential, second double dip game. But obviously winning that first matchup is important and potentially taking your total game load for the weekend, cutting it in half, right? Where you have a potential to just win 2, which would line up perfectly for your squad as 2 good pitchers in the top of the rotation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it would be crazy of us or the Loons to go into that game on Saturday trying to save somebody, right? So I would fully expect to get their top arm. So if you win that one, you just got to win one of the next 2. If you lose that one, you got to win 3 straight. So it doesn't take a real math genius to know that that's a super, super important game.
Well, Dan, certainly wish you the best of luck this coming weekend. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on your games ahead. I mean, it's been a tough road for you guys so far, knocking off some really good teams with the Flyers and then our darlings of the season, the Minnetonka Mustangs. But we'll definitely be watching and rooting for you.
Yeah, thanks. And before we go, I'd just love to take a second and just say a quick shout out of props to the Mustangs. I've faced them a couple of times over the years. Boy, they've really improved. They've, some of the hitters the other day were putting together some great at-bats. Only were able to scratch out one, but they threatened several times. Good pitches were getting spoiled all night long. I think we set close to a league record for number of foul balls we had to chase. So just really good approaches from that team. Like I said, just lucky my offense got a big ugly number in the third. Otherwise, that game could have easily gone the other way. So Mustangs, if you're listening, well done. Looking forward to seeing you in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. It's a team that is kind of hard to stay up on. They don't have a large social media presence, but yeah, I've been definitely watching their scores all year round, and they're clearly doing some things that have them trending in the right direction. Well, the action from the A bracket will go down at Hawks Baseball Field in Hastings, Minnesota. That taking place on Saturday, and then they will be back at Alley Magnet for the championship games. Dan, hope to see you out there.
Yeah, thanks, Josh, and good luck to the A's as well, man.
Appreciate it. Time now to visit our double A bracket. Currently sitting in the winners bracket are the Apple Valley A's and the River Falls Groupers. Currently sitting slumped in his chair, dejected and defeated, is a member of the South Metro Saints. Chris, the weekend didn't go how you hoped, how you imagined. You guys took on the River Falls Groupers and literally had the lights go out on you in that game. Who knew that the lights turn off at 11 o'clock at Alley Magnet? The game was fairly well in hand for the groupers at that point, so we decided to call it final. But any thoughts, any insight on that first round matchup for you guys?
Groupers are dangerous, everyone knows, and with the arms that they have. Yeah, don't need to talk about us. Twoing and queuing is super rad.
I should be more sympathetic because it's difficult when that season ends, especially when it's in a way that you don't want it to be. You guys took on Burnsville in your second game, came up just short in that one as well. 4-1 was the final. River Falls' other victory that they were able to put under their belt before the end of the weekend, they took on the Elko Chuggers, were able to defeat them handedly. The other marks goes in this one. Derek, of course, throwing against you guys on Friday night. His brother, the lefty, was brilliant in this game as well. Held an Elko Chuggers team that had 18 hits on the day previously to 0 runs over 5 innings. That game ends when it's 6-0 in the 5th inning and Derek Marks hits a walk-off grand slam. So while he may be known for his pitching, the guy's got a really dangerous bat. Just missed another home run in the first inning by about a foot off the left center field wall. But this team in River Falls sitting in a great spot in the winners bracket. They're going to have Meyer back next weekend. They're going to have healthy and rested Marks. Definitely look out for them come the championship weekend.
Yeah, I wonder if when he hit it, he turned and apologized too, because he's such a nice guy. Dirty pitcher, awesome hitter, and one of the nicest guys you're going to meet in the leagues. Pretty awesome combination. It's kind of you can kind of basically say that for most of the grouper guys over there. It's been a fun squad to get to know. I mean, like you and I talked earlier, I thought they were a bunch of old grumpy coots. So it's been cool getting to know them. Yeah, taking care of Elko like that, and then they're going to be sitting in good shape. I don't know what the town hall schedule looks like next weekend or whatever, but yeah, the groupers are looking really good right now.
Well, I mentioned that they will take on the Apple Valley A's. The way the A's got there, they took on the Milltown Outlaws in the first round. Tim Scott goes in that one. The A's win that game 5-1. Scott was absolutely brilliant, goes the distance, strikes out 13 in the process, only gives up 1 hit, 1 run. Tony Rome goes for the Outlaws. He was very good in that one as well. A's do notch 10 hits. 7 different players have hits. Bissonette, Stefani, and Stevens all had 2 hits each. A's looked good in that first round. They get the Jokers in the second round after Lonsdale defeated the 1 seed Rockford in the first game. Wasepka with the complete game win against Rockford. Bert Weidert had a clutch 2-out RBI in the 7th to propel the Lonsdale Jokers into that second round. So the A's and Jokers then matched up in the second round, and that second round matchup was probably one of the better played baseball games that we've been a part of all season. The Jokers had never seen them before, didn't know much about them other than what we cover here on the podcast. But 1 through 9, that lineup can hit. Their 3, 4, 5 hitters are really freaking good. Mike Madison, the lefty, threw really well for the Jokers. A's come out on top in that one, 4-3. Have to come from behind in the 6th inning with the 2 spot in the bottom of the 6th. Brian Cogswell ends up having a bases-loaded walk that drives in the go-ahead and ultimately game-winning run. Pat De La Hunt gets the save. But Lonsdale will not be an easy out in that loser's bracket. I can tell you that. They are for real, and they are bringing a really talented roster.
Look, I mean, you guys have been playing well for a few weeks now, and I'll save you the I'll take this off your plate. I'll heap praise on you guys. You guys have been playing very well. Your pitching is becoming very solid and coming together at the right time. I think you guys are and hitting the ball. And so scoring runs, we talk about with a good pitching staff. Saints were talking about you guys once, and we were thinking with the pitching you guys have, you score 4 or 5 runs, you're in good shape. Look at what you guys did over the weekend against some tough teams, right? So you guys are obviously going to be sitting in good shape going into the weekend with a loss to play with and the pitching you guys have relative to what everyone else has. Second, Lonsdale is awesome. And if you'll recall, during our preview episode, I said that Lonsdale on a Friday night is a fun hang. Lonsdale is a money team to hang out with on a Friday. Just FYI. So that's going to be awesome.
Spot on.
Idea. Fantastic. I mean, not to start any hot stove nonsense gossip, but both of our squads might have been in a certain state where we discussed meshing teams at one point, which will never happen, obviously. But that's how cool they are. We just like hanging out with them so much. So I got to get a tank top. I needed one for this episode because you guys are my pick this weekend. Fuck that. No, sorry, I don't want to be safe. Josh, I love you. You guys are awesome. You guys are in good shape. But I'm on the Joker's bandwagon here. But I wanted to add that I apologize to Mr. Trent Larson from the Burnsville Bulldogs. This dude has been throwing all year. If a guy would just open the damn website and look at stats every now and then, he'd know that. I'm going to blame the website because everyone else does. So that's my excuse. We saw this. I just talk about Josh all the time because I feel like that's who we always see, and he always handles us. Larson can deal, man, and holy shit did he look good. So my bad for not even bringing you up by name. I don't even know if you watch this, but goddamn, you look dirty, and really fucking nice pitcher. And I see how Burnsville went on the run they did after the slow start they did with the arms that they apparently have in their stable.
Yeah, that 1-2 is really good. That's a team we're really familiar with. We've seen them a number of times for the last, even dating back to when we were in the old league together. It makes the win that the Elko Chuggers had over them even more impressive. I mean, Lowen starts that game. Owen was a former Chugger, so I'm sure he was a little bit motivated to maybe get after those guys. That Elko squad, I'm guessing, almost completely different from when he was a part of it. Yeah, it just feels like they have tons of new blood, tons of great hitters. They bang out 18 hits against Lowen and Larson, but then Larson comes back the next day and throws an absolute gem against you guys.
The quality of ball that was being played at LA Magnet, regardless of bracket, was awesome. So it's going to be even more awesome this weekend, I'm sure.
I completely agree. Maybe being a little biased. Alvestad, the shortstop for the Jokers, made, I think, what could be the play of the year defensively. He just infield in, diving stop, saved 2 runs, got the out at home. It was just an unbelievable play. He had to be there. But we'll recap what we have going on in the AA. We've got the Elko Chuggers taking on the 1 seed in the Rockford Rail Splitters. The Lonsdale Jokers taking on Burnsville. Both those games will be Thursday night at Alley Magnet. The winners of those games will square off Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, they'll take on the loser of the A's Groupers game. Of course, that for the right to get back to Championship Sunday, where I hope, selfishly, those A's are once again.
Why so serious, Josh? Give me the Jokers.
I love it. Well, it is time now to bring on our AA guest, and an absolute honor to bring on a teammate of mine. Excited to introduce the league to this guy. He's a heck of a ball player, a great teammate. So let's go ahead and bring him on. It is time now to welcome on our AA bracket guest for the week. It is a teammate of mine, Mr. Pat De La Hunt. Pat, welcome to Fed Up.
Yep, Coach. Thank you for having me on. I'm pumped to be on this. And a listener, now I'm glad to be on.
Yeah, I don't like to talk about our squad a ton for obvious reasons. I don't want it to turn into an A's podcast by any means, but when we're relevant in those few moments, I definitely love the opportunity to just introduce the league to a couple of the guys that I love playing with, and super excited to introduce them to you. Maybe on that note, would you mind just sharing your baseball story?
Yeah, absolutely. Grew up playing baseball from the earliest age that I can remember. I had an older brother about 4 years older than me. did everything he did. So he played baseball, I played baseball. He played football, I played football. He wanted to play hockey, we played hockey. But sticking strictly to baseball, growing up, we had anywhere from literally a sandlot type deal. We played softball from the age I can remember, call it 6, 7 years old, all the way to starting traveling at about 10 years old. Some of my best memories for when travel baseball, from the 10 to 13 or 14 range before you get into the Legion days. And that's when my love of the game started. I mean, it wasn't, anything before high school, before college. Those little pickup baseball games that for me were the most fun. Played high school baseball at Apple Valley for a couple of years, and then got the chance to go play college baseball at St. Cloud State. That's to this day probably a lot of my best friends that I've met. We're still on that team, and it's just a cool camaraderie. Like I remember coaches saying, you're not ever going to remember any of your stats, you're going to remember any of that stuff, and it's 100% true. You remember the close games like we just had last week. You remember those fun games. That's the stuff you remember. And I played with Tim Scott, who's a decent pitcher on our team. At St. Cloud, became really good friends with him, been friends ever since, and you and him got me on the team to play with the A's, which I didn't know at first what I was getting myself into, and now, like you said, I still remember your first, once you start, you will be hooked, and I am 100% hooked. But just love the game of baseball. I'm glad you got me back into it, and happy to be on the team and playing with you.
A's absolutely hit the free agent lottery when you and Tim signed up together. Just a crazy small world how he marries into the A's family. You grew up in Apple Valley. You played together in college, and it all just comes together. And it was notably present over the weekend. Tim starts the weekend on the mound for us. He goes 7 strong, allows 1 hit, strikes out 14 against a really good Milltown team. And then you end the weekend for us with the big save in the Lonsdale Jokers game, a game that we win 4-3. Talk a little bit about what it's like to get back on the mound, after a significant break in your career, but just talk about what that feeling's like and to be a big part of a big playoff win like that.
Yeah, to get back on the mound and to start with Tim's outing, just funny, I didn't realize he had 14 strikeouts against, again, like you said, a good team. That's been Tim since we've been playing in college. I mean, the talent is kind of obvious to watch. I won't get into that. I still think he needs a put-away pitch. He doesn't get too many strikeouts. I'm just kidding. His talent's there, but what's even better is his mentality. I think when he gets in trouble is when he becomes his best, and I think that's kind of what good pitchers are, and he's always been like that. He's had a few injury issues that he's always seemed to come back with. And gosh, it seems like he's come back stronger. But yeah, he's fun to watch. He's got really good stuff. I wish he would just take a compliment a little better. So I just tell him he sucks. So just a lot easier to do it that way. But that was a great way to
As
start.
a good friend and a teammate should say, that's the exact message that he wants to hear from guys like you. So I love it.
Yeah, to get back on the mound, to get back to your original question, I didn't realize how much I missed baseball until I got back into it, because I played amateur baseball after college for about 6 years. I played with Sauk Rapids because that's where I went to school, so stayed up there for a couple of years. And then I went over to play with the Cobras for a few years in Minneapolis in the Class A ball, met a lot of good guys. There's some guys on, I think, St. Louis Park now that I played with, Germar, Kraus, Matt Borman, all really good players, great people too as well. But to get back on the mound after, extended leave, first, I had no idea if anything's still going to be there, right? You don't get that feeling really anywhere else, right? You're out there alone. You got your teammates behind you. There's something about baseball, something about pitching, being out there saying, hey, it's me versus the hitter, and let's go after him. But again, as you know, Josh, you're a very good pitcher in your own right. There's nothing better. You're going to get hit around. And that's another thing with this league. I did not realize the talent that you're going to see in this league. And that's what makes it a whole lot more fun. Because when you said 35 and older, I had just been coming from my softball days. I did not know what that entailed. But from the pitching, the hitting on a night in, night out basis, doesn't matter what team you play, the talent is there. And I think that's a blast. I think you're seeing that, with us being in AA, I wish we were in AAA. Yes, of course. But, we're making a good run again in AA after winning it last year. there's 10 teams that earn their way to the AAA, and hopefully that's us next year. But, it's fun going up against good talent.
Love it. Yeah, you're going to see a couple more of those really talented AA teams this weekend. Of course, the A's run into River Falls Groupers on Saturday. Still 4 really good teams in the losers bracket of this in the AA: Elko, Rockford, Lonsdale, and Burnsville. Obviously, only one of those teams can come back and have a shot at whoever were to lose our game Saturday. But a lot of competitive baseball ahead, and really looking forward to getting after it with you and potentially repeating for that Dan Tupper Cup in the AA.
Yeah, it's going to be another great weekend. I mean, this is kind of it's sad in one sense, as it's the last weekend of baseball for the season. You still got the Hickory, but this is our last weekend with our core team. And I absolutely love playing with these guys, but it's whoever's left right now can win it. Like we showed last year, you lose your first game. Yeah, it's a long road, but you come back, you're going to have to beat a lot of good teams, like you just mentioned. And, I'm just ready to go to battle with you and our team. And, I think our best has a good chance at beating any team, but other teams' best can beat us as well. That's what makes this league so fun, and the parity, makes any game, a win or lose match. You got to play your best.
Definitely got to earn it. Pat, really appreciate you taking the time to jump on. Really an honor to wear the green and gold right alongside of you, and it's such a treat to be able to introduce you to the league on this platform. Obviously, so many players you played with and against in this league, but really glad to have the opportunity to introduce you to those guys who haven't, because you're a special player, special teammate. Love having you.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate you having me on this. I'm not going to lie, when you said you're starting a podcast, like the 35-0 League, I didn't know what you were getting yourself into. I have to give you props. It is fun to listen to. You get a lot of good guests, a lot of good perspective. It's fun listening to a lot of humble players. Like, you give a lot of compliments, but nobody's about themselves. This league is all about good play. We like to have a good time. We're very competitive, but at the end of the day, a lot of people respect each other. And Coach, I love playing for you. You know this. Said it a million times. And let's go get them this weekend. And thanks for having me.
Sounds good, buddy. See you then. That was fun to have another one of my teammates on the podcast. Don't do that often, but Pat is just an absolute first-class player, great teammate. Love having him on the A's. Our pitching, was outstanding the whole weekend. Tim Scott went in the first game, mentioned him, but Herm in the second game against Lonsdale was so sharp. Ended up throwing 5 innings for us. I threw the 6th, but then Pat came in and shut the door, and really a huge staple on our squad is that pitching staff. So to be able to win those games as close and well played as they were defensively, it was just a fun weekend.
Your guys' staff has a pitcher that's a different type. Each one is a different type, and Herm is like that bulldog he's a guy that just grinds. He does whatever he needs to get out, whether it's mowing down people or pitching to contact. And when Tim throws, he's a guy that can make you look silly in the box, right? So there's all these different styles and contrasting things. If you're playing against a team like you get a guy for 4 or 5 innings, and then all of a sudden you got a totally different look. It's a dangerous thing to go up against in the playoffs, so that's why you should feel good about your chances, I feel.
We do. We like where we're at for sure. But let's go ahead and get on to the granddaddy 12 games in the big boy bracket over the weekend. Was some incredible baseball. There ended up being 6 one-run games across the 12. We mentioned both of the playing games went into extra innings the first night. Newmarket narrowly beating the Pipers 6-5. Lakeville beating Tonka Bay 8-7 on that first night. Cam Jones with a huge 2 RBI single down the line. Lakeville had to come from behind 4 different times in that game. Rathman, Larson, Witt all had doubles. They beat Brandon Wolf in that game. And I have to be the first one to say that maybe I was wrong about Lakeville. They don't survive the weekend, but they certainly held their own when it came to hitting against some of that great pitching. The deck was stacked too hard against these play-in teams. All 4 of the 7 through 10 seeds eliminated before the first weekend was complete.
That Lakeville Tonka Bay game running in parallel with the Rose Mountain Newmarket game, you could just hear one thing about those South teams, Newmarket, Phil, they bring people with them. A team like us, it's like
Travel well.
yeah, whose wife isn't pissed at them? Maybe they'll show up for 4 innings. They actually bring a stable of people, which is the town ball way, right? So, that's one of the things you're always jealous about when you see the playoffs come and you see these contingencies of people come in. But the awesome part of that about that was being over by the Rosemount Newmarket game as we were getting ready to play. You just hear it would blow up across the street. So you'd sit down and then you start running over there, like, what's going on? So, like, you can just kind of go back and forth as you need to. So I can't overstate how cool of a way it was to start the weekend with those two games going on.
Well, Newmarket's reward for winning that playing game was taking on the 1 seed in the Hastings Hurricanes. This might have been the game of the weekend. Pfeffer throws a complete game, throws all 9 innings, goes to extras yet again. Newmarket had.
Can I, before you
Go
keep
ahead.
going? Pfeffer's
Yeah.
obviously in pain if you've seen him try to run. So he's obviously dealing with something. So worth noting when you're considering that he went all 9. Just wanted to bring that
Yeah,
in.
you want to use that cliche bulldog term with Herm. Pfeffer's another one that is
Mhm.
just an absolute grinder when it comes to dealing on the mound. He strikes out 10 in that game, gets the complete game win, earned it. He gave up runs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th all 3 times. I thought it was Newmarket's game. There's no way Hastings can come back. There's no way they can come back again. Then in the 9th, Harrington leads off the 9th with a solo shot home run over the left field wall. Jordy Horsch ends up driving in his brother with a walk-off sac fly. It was a really emotional win, I know, for some. But like I mentioned, just the absolute game of the weekend, in my opinion. Final was 10-9 Hastings over Newmarket in a classic Southern Division tilt.
Yep, it was punch, counter punch, like tournament time. It was just back and forth, back and forth. And the thing about it, and I'm glad you brought up that Pfeffer finished it and he grinded through those because it's not like the threats were gone when they got out of the innings either. Like there were runners on base, it felt like in every extra inning. It's not like he just had a clean inning. So to just grind through that, ultimate gamer.
Lakeville's reward for winning their playoff game was taking on the 2-time defending champion Minoka Grays. Grays were typical Grays in this one. They were led by Van Creveland and Gonzalez, who each had 3 RBI. Rhodey had 3 hits. Taylor Nelson scored 3 times. Ben Schroeder, maybe the only ace of the weekend to pitch in their starting game. But he was brilliant in that one. He gets the win for the Grays. That was kind of the story for the AAA. Just with how the bracket's set up, most teams elected to save their ace and throw them later in the weekend. And that kind of shaped, how the bracket played out, affected my predictions at least, in terms of who was going to be there. But that leads me to the East Metro Snappers game. You got to get these clutch performances from guys other than your ace. And the Mammoth got one out of Nate Stark. He throws a complete game. He was really good in this one. Lefty hit his spots, worked his way out of trouble. I could see the wheels turning for Matt Grill in the 7th when they got a guy on to start that inning. But he sticks with his guy there and he ends up throwing a complete game. Mammoth get the win 3-2 over a pretty good Snappers team. Charlie Rudd goes in that one for the Snappers, but well played ball game all around. Just the Mammoth doing what Mammoth do.
Yeah, about Stark, we've talked about him a couple of times in the last few weeks, but he is one of those guys that's just naturally good at everything. He's at the plate, he looks unassuming, every smooth swing, just rockets everywhere. And then you get him on the mound. I mean, everyone's consumed with facing Matt Grill, his changeup, and that's valid. But I don't. I think Nate Stark is their unsung hero on that team. He does everything. Who has that? I mean, not everybody has that. St. Louis Park, it's a journey for them, and obviously that loss is tough. But it's the Mammoth, right? So it's kind of a crapshoot.
Snappers not done yet. They took on Newmarket in the loser bracket. They were able to outlast the Northerns in that one 3-1. Not a lot of notes shared on the performances in that one. I didn't know Newmarket kind of showed up with kind of a half squad. I can't believe it, for the playoffs, after the depletion of their squad going up to St. Louis Park and then showing up with a couple of guys missing on the weekend and still being competitive. I said at one point during the weekend, if there was a nuclear zombie apocalypse I was pretty sure only three things would survive, right? It would be Twinkies, it would be cockroaches, and it would be the Newmarket Northerns. But not even they can get through this first weekend of action. I'm sure that Snappers Newmarket game was charged up. A lot of guys probably really wanted to come out on top of that, especially in an elimination game. But the Snappers end up prevailing and moving on to the next round. Other first round matchups featured Waconia and the Minnetonka Saints. Two more teams very familiar with each other. Mentioned the Saints getting the best of Waconia last year in the playoffs. Saints got them twice this year. I predicted Waconia to finally get that monkey off the bat, and they do in a big way. They score 17 runs. Chris Bossel was 3 for 4 in this one, hit a double, had 5 RBI, all of those coming with 2 outs. 2-out clutch hitting was the story for the Islanders in this one. They win that game 17-5. Brown gets the W for the Islanders. They were missing a couple of guys this weekend as well due to town ball commitments, but Waconia looked impressive in their first game nonetheless. Town ball factor was definitely looming for many teams, Waconia being one of them. Perhaps one of the reasons they came up well short when they took on their next matchup in the Minoka Grays. This game was close for a while. Grays led 5-4, I believe, in the fourth before the floodgates opened up. Both teams changed pitchers a couple of times, but Minoka ends up diming the Waconia Islanders 14-4. Grays had 17 hits in this one. Dan Skog was 4 for 4 with 3 runs, 3 RBIs. Brums and Gonzalez had 3 RBI each as well. Super impressive what the Grays were able to do there against a really talented Islanders team.
Yeah, for sure, especially when you say that they use their ace in their opener against Lakeville, right? But for Minoka, ace is a subjective term. I feel like ace could be a different person depending on the day, the time, the temperature. I don't know. I feel like they have like 7 guys that are built for a certain situation. Look at the scores that they just put up in the first 2 rounds. I mean, that's pretty awesome. An embarrassment of riches for those guys in powder blue, looking good. And it'll be awesome to see that top flight pitching and gosh darn the lineup, for crying out loud.
27 runs for the Grays in 2 games against some really good talent. Jack Nelson did start that second game. Maybe the story here, though, for the Grays, Lovis injures himself in that game. Might affect his status for the upcoming weekend. That would be a big loss for them, assuming, just knowing what Bub has done to the Mammoth, in recent years. He's kind of been the neutralizer for them. So they'll have to find somebody else to go ahead and take them on in that very, very important game in the winner's bracket on Saturday. Gotta assume it's going to be Grill for the Mammoth. It's probably going to be Ben Schroeder, who the Mammoth haven't seen yet for the Grays, but that will be an absolute drag-out brawl between two teams who know each other very well. This will be their 10th meeting between these two teams over the last 5 seasons. A matchup that features the 4 last champions, of course, the Grays winning the last 2, the Mammoth winning the 2 prior to that. But whoever wins that game will be in an absolute dominant position to be a champion once again.
And if you're asking me, if Minoka goes ahead and pulls this one out, good luck, because they're stacked with arms and their lineup's stacked as stacked or as close to stacked as any other lineup in the league. So if Minoka wins that game, watch out. Good luck to everybody else on that. If the Mammoth win, I think things get a little more interesting. I just want to say, Bub Lovis, similar to how Stark is the unsung hero for the Mammoth, to me at least. Bub is such a good pitcher. Alex is dirty. He's got nasty stuff. Ben, Jack, all those guys, rightfully so. But Bub is sneaky good. He'd be the ace on basically every other team in the league. So I just want to give a shout out to him because he tossed against us when he came in relief. And I feel like he doesn't get enough run.
Yeah, you're probably right. And don't forget MVR in laying in weight too. I mean, he's a self-proclaimed, I think, the best pitcher on his team, but he sells himself short. He's a guy that can definitely come in and contribute should the Grays find themselves in that loser's bracket. But the teams in the loser bracket, there's still some good ones left in there. Talked about them all a little bit briefly, but First games will be Friday night. Hastings Hurricanes will take on the Minnetonka Saints, and the Maconie Islanders will take on the St. Louis Park Snappers. Would assume that everyone's going to have their full complement of guys. We're going to assume that we're going to start seeing some aces coming out because these are elimination games. Nothing left to save them for. But each of those 4 teams have to win 5 games in 3 days against some top-notch talent in order to be champion. You want to talk about the deck being stacked against you. That is absolutely the case for those 4 teams.
I'm looking at the matchups this weekend. To me, Hastings and Minnetonka are 2 teams that are, for some reason or another, had something to prove coming into this year. Whether it was Hastings and living up to the hype and the early exit last year in Minnetonka, like, are they legit? And the way that they've played has been ridiculous. And so the fact that they lost their opener was kind of a surprise to me personally. That being said, this matchup on Friday? The Hastings guys are going to be geared up, probably going to be loud, emotional. I don't think the Minnetonka Saints are those kinds of guys that carry themselves a little different with a quieter confidence, maybe. So I just think it's going to be a really fun game to watch for 2 teams that have something to prove and are, looking to put their stamp on not only this year, going into the next year.
Well, some other action that happened in the losers bracket earlier, elimination games. The Rosemont Vipers were able to send the Lakeville Lobos home for the season in a really close game. Pipers were in control of that one. They were up 4-0 going into the last inning. Lobos had the momentum going before a really freak double play ended that one. Pipers able to come out on top with a 4-3 win. Pipers advanced to play the Minnetonka Saints, and I have to mention that Tommy Hansen for the Saints was really, really good in this one. He goes all 7 innings in that one and gets the win, but not before Rosemont able to come back and throw up a 4 spot in the 7th inning, momentarily grab the lead 5-4 in that game before Minnetonka was able to come back and get the walk-off win. Matt Butts gets the walk-off winner on a ground ball to third base in that one, but really well-played game between 2 great teams, but Rosemont's season over as well. Tonka Bay was 0-2 in the playoffs. Once again, tough to believe, with Wolf and Brower. Maybe the storyline in that one is that the last we've seen of Brower. Hate to think so, but certainly this could be his last season. I hope it's not, but Newmarket ends up taking care of them and eliminating Tonka Bay, and then they go on to then get eliminated by the Snappers in that game that we've already spoken about.
Yeah, they were a sexy-ass pick coming into the league, and it was warranted. I mean, it still is warranted with the caliber of people they have on the squad. Just one of those weird things. It's baseball, right? So it is really weird. I totally expected them to be in the second weekend at least. So it is kind of just good on the other. I mean, Newmarket showed up this weekend. I mean, they opened up. And by the way, I wanted to give love to them. They found my bat too, or they had my bat.
There you go,
dude. So I was able to get that back. So just to put a bow on that. But yeah, it sucks for Rosemount and Tonka Bay because both of those squads plenty capable, right?
Action resumes once again at Alley Magnet on Friday night. Big game of the weekend, though, will take place on Saturday at 2:15, the Mammoth and the Grays. In anticipation of that matchup, we have a very special guest, so let's go ahead and bring him on.
2001, 2002, 2003.
Tom. Hey, Tom.
Hey, I wasn't expecting a call there. I'm sorry. I was just in the middle of my workout. I don't know if you heard me counting. I did over 1,000. Tuesday's arms and back. Get a couple more in here.
Tom Corcoran, bro. The one, the only, our AAA guest. He really needs no introduction, but love the uniqueness of Tom Corcoran. Welcome to Fed Up.
I'm just going to put a shirt on quick if you don't mind. Watch out for the guns. They'll get you. I was talking with Arms and Hammer earlier, and he gave me a workout regimen, and I was in the middle of my workout, so I apologize for not being ready when you called.
No, it's totally understood. Hate to catch you in the middle of prepping yourself. I got to start, man, with huge congratulations. Of course, Lars and the official publication of the league, they're naming you the regular season MVP. Congrats on that. Well earned, well deserved.
Thank you, thank you. Just follow that Arms and Hammer workout regimen, and it can be you next year.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But, normally being a first time guest, I would ask you to share your baseball story. I know so many members of the league know you, probably know some of your story, but we've got to have you on a full episode. So I'm going to forego that with you. And so we're going to kind of just launch into the bracket. Let's talk about the weekend that was, talk about the weekend ahead. But certainly a lot went down in the AAA with Alley Magnet. I want to start with maybe the bracket itself. 7 through 10 seeds all eliminated in the first weekend. Talk about just how massive it was to grab one of those top 6 seeds.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, the 1 and 2 seeds, they got to face a team that already threw, but there's a little bit of gamesmanship happening there with people not throwing their ace in that first game. So even the 1-2 seed, I didn't think really even had that big of an advantage. But yeah, I think all those top 6 seeds, I think we're all pretty balanced. The 7 through 10 obviously had a huge disadvantage playing that extra game. But some of those teams are so deep that, I mean, I was seeing pictures day 2 that Newmarket versus Snappers. I'm like, man, these guys, and like Brower's throwing for Tonka Bay, and I'm thinking like, how did these guys not throw game 1? Like, these are the best pitchers I've seen this year, and we're seeing them day 2 of the playoffs. So it just goes to show you how many great pitchers there were. Can't even talk about first weekend without talking about the Hastings Newmarket game. That game was just, that was the best baseball game I've ever seen. Like, it was, I thought each team about 4 different times was like, oh, they got this game in the bag. And then it just switched within about 5 minutes. So it was just incredible. Got to talk about that game. We could do a whole podcast on just Hastings versus Newmarket. That was amazing.
You certainly could. It was a true heavyweight fight, punch for punch, counter punch. I mean, it was unbelievable. Like you mentioned, I thought Newmarket had that game wrapped up 3 different times, and Hastings responded all 3 times. So fun to watch that team in action. Hadn't seen them yet this year in person, but then to watch what you guys did to them in the very next round was even maybe more remarkable. I did not see that coming. A 14-2 Mammoth win.
Yeah, you could tell they probably used up a lot of emotion. They came in a little bit, maybe, coming off a high. And so we got them lucky in that top of the second inning. 1 hit, scored 7 runs. So not even like we were earning it. They were just kind of tired. But yeah, obviously, that's what the Mammoth are good at. They grind you down. There's no easy outs in that lineup. I mean, yeah, played well, and we got some opportunities, and we took advantage.
There was another lopsided game on the other side of that bracket that kind of set up the winners match going down on Saturday. Waconia lost to the Minoka Grays 14-4. I was expecting some offense in that one, but I was not expecting to see the Islanders get dimed.
Yeah, I think it was like about the 3rd inning. I think it was maybe like 4-5 or so. And I was thinking, all right, this is going to be a good game. I think Grays scored right away in the top of the first. And I thought, okay, this game, maybe the Grays are going to bring it to them. Then Waconia battled back. But in the end, obviously, Grays, it was great. And both teams, that's another example of like how deep these pitching staffs were. It's like they both had a pitcher go down, and it was their second pitcher of the game, and they brought in this third guy, and they're all still throwing just gas with great off speed. I'm like, where are they getting all these guys from? It's crazy how deep these teams are.
Absolutely right. The member of the Grays that went down, of course, being Bub Lovis, somebody who's been kind of a neutralizer for your team, at least the last couple of years. What would that mean to both squads if Bub's not able to go this weekend?
Yeah, I don't even know, like, with the Grays being so deep, like, I don't even know if Bub would be their guy. Like, we haven't seen Schroeder. Jack's going to be gone, unfortunately. So is Nate Stark. So, like, 2 of the best players in the league there. Not being there is going to be a little bit of a disappointment, but I mean, they've got a lot of options. I'm pretty sure they know who they're going to face, but I didn't even know Stark was going to throw our game 1, and he shut down those snappers. So you can't
really
say
good.
enough about Nate Stark. He's just so good, both offensively and defensively. But unfortunately, yeah, not going to have him against the Grays, and Grays aren't going to have Jack. So, I mean, probably Schroeder versus Grill, you would guess, but you just never know. That team's so deep, they could throw Mark against us, and Mark would shut us down. Just a lot of options. It's going to be fun. It's going to be deep. No team's going to be out of it. And Can't wait.
So it sets up a matchup that will be the 10th matchup, I believe, in the last 4 seasons. Of course, your two teams winning the last 4 Federal League AAA titles, the Grays winning the 2 previous, being 2-time defending champs, the Mammoth being the 2-time defending champs prior to that. This prognosticating thing has been so hard for me, but I feel like if I just picked the Grays and the Mammoth every single year, I would get it right. Talk about this game this weekend, how big it is, and how being so familiar with each other is going to play into it.
I think it'll be a little different this year. Like the Grays have so many new guys. I was surprised when I saw them play Waconia and when I saw them play Lakeville. When their top like 5-6 guys came up, it's like, oh, I only really recognize Joey Olson and Jack. So they got some new guys, and of course, like all of them could just bring it. I'm sure the North Division knows all about those top 5 guys, top 9 guys. So I don't know why I'm limiting it to the top 5, but especially the top 5. I didn't even know a few of them, and they just all were hitting 400-foot foul bombs against Waconia, against a pitcher who was throwing great. So obviously they can swing it. Mammoth. I think we probably lost about the last 4 or so against the Grays, so we're about due. I think we probably won about the first 4. I don't know, you said we played 10 times. I would guess we started off with a huge advantage, and now Grays have probably closed that gap, and it's probably pretty even. So hopefully it's just close, and can't wait. It's going to be great.
I think you're spot on. I think my records have it 5-4 with the Mammoth advantage now, but the Grays, of course, getting the best of many of those as of late. Can't forget about the loser bracket because there's a lot of good teams still sleeping in it down there. Hastings versus Minnetonka Saints, and the St. Louis Park Snappers versus the Waconia Islanders. Lots of competitive baseball to be played Friday night out at Alley Magnet. I'm looking for some more fireworks. Teams will have a chance to recharge those aces and get back to it and bring their best, but it's going to be a long road back to eventually face the loser of that winner bracket game.
I mean, just those 4 teams have to win 5 games between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, if any of those 4 teams you just mentioned win it, they absolutely just did probably about the hardest thing in Federal League history. You got to imagine this is the deepest AAA Final 6 ever. So if they can win 5 in a row against, would that be 4 different teams? That'd be incredible. They have earned it for sure. But on the flip side, very, very unlikely. Those 4 teams, they got a tall hill to climb. So, but like I said, Waconia brought out 3 great pitchers on game 2, so they didn't even have their ace, so they've got 4 good pitchers. Snappers got 4 good multiple, I don't even know, 5-6 good pitchers, who knows? Hastings, you feel like Beffer could just throw every game and they'd probably win every game. Such a bulldog. Saints can swing it, so who do you pick in that? If I tried to pick there, I'd be up $20 in each of those games, so I won't even try.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of kids with new gloves in Cambodia soon that are very grateful for my prognosticating ineptitude. But you're absolutely right. This is the time of year where those teams are really going to have to show and flex their depth. It's going to be a really fun weekend of baseball. I love most of the new format. I think we had some misses on the bracket we talked about maybe last week, but the task of winning 5 games in 3 days is, I think, like you mentioned, a monumental feat, but it's certainly one that it should be hard to do when you're coming back from that loser's bracket. So looking forward to see if somebody can scale that hill and maybe get back into the winner's bracket, back into the championship. But right now, it definitely looks like the Grays and the Mammoth with a strong hold on that next AAA Cup.
Yeah, I mean, we have a much easier, even if the loser of that Mammoth Grays game, they still got to win 3 straight against great teams. So, I mean, the loser of that game's in a tough spot, and that's with 2 fewer games than the Saints, the Hurricanes, the Snappers, and the Islanders. So real tough to be in that loser's bracket.
Absolutely makes Saturday's game between the Mammoth and the Grays a big-time spot. That game will happen at 2:15 on Rich Vanderlyn Field. I know I'll be there for it. Looking forward to seeing you this weekend again as well.
Is Harper going to be in the booth?
She may be on the PA once again, but yeah.
Great job there. The whole weekend was great. Great having you guys in the booth. And Wade was doing a great job. So much fun. Thanks for making that such a great experience.
Well, you're playing your ability makes it pretty fun to watch too. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us on here. Looking forward to seeing how the rest of the bracket plays out, and best of luck to you and the Mammoth going forward.
All right. Thank you so much.
An absolute treat to have Tom Corcoran on. Caught him in the little bit of his workout, routine. Can't question it though, because obviously the season that guy's had is unbelievable. And however you get yourself up, however you get yourself ready, whether it's playing Catan or doing shirtless arm curls, there's only one Tom Corcoran.
Eat seaweed as well. He eats dried seaweed for fuel. Popeye has spinach, dried seaweed.
Yeah.
Go to a market and get some of that. It's good stuff.
Well, there you go. We have recapped all 4 brackets for you. We have laid the path ahead for the weekend upcoming, but should be another great weekend of baseball. Looking forward to covering that with you next week and doing a toast to the champions in next week's episode. Until then, enjoy some baseball. Stay fed.